I'm very privileged to be able to attend a bunch of different film festivals this year, including Asifa South. Asifa South is an animation festival here in the Atlanta metro area where it highlights the different animated films from not only around the world, but also locally, and highlighting local talent and talking about the different changes in the animation industry. And this comes from Asifa, which is an international organization that helps introduce and helps celebrate animation across multiple generations and multiple places. So I've had the privilege of knowing a lot of people who are a part of this, and we're going to chat with them today. So come along with me as we interview them and get to know more people who work in the animation industry and who also are just part of this local community. Here today with a wonderful person who I've worked with on many occasions with. This is Ginger Tanbitan, right? Did I say that right?
Yes, you did.
Excellent.
You did.
And Ginger is the president and CEO of Asifa South.
Oh, I'm the operations now. I have Cassandra and Jeff step up for us.
Oh, okay.
Leaderships must change.
That's understandable. She has worked very hard to bring this community together and be able to have more people be a part of it so people can stand up. So tell us a little bit about Asifa South.
Oh yeah, Asifa South is an international animation society that has like many chapters around the world, but ours is headquartered in Atlanta and focused on empowering, fostering a community of artists, especially in the South.
Nice, nice. So in years past, you have been more in Atlanta. What made the change for coming to Kennesaw State?
Well, because number one, we also have a lot of people who are now in our committee from Kennesaw State. You know, we try to expand so that we're not in one particular one, but also like Kennesaw State has such a really nice, vibrant animation community. Mm-hmm. And like, I think like it's very welcoming and a lot of people are like really hungry for this as well too. So when we were talking to Chris, my friend who teaches here, is Professor Sandy, mm-hmm. especially Professor Sandy Chamberlain, who teaches here, she was the one like, yeah, it would be great to be at Kennesaw. So, you know, we came in and we're like, wow, everybody here is so welcoming.
That's nice. So speaking of welcoming, there's always inspiration that pulls us together and helps push us forward. What are some of the people that have helped inspire you on your journey?
Wow. I mean, personally, family stuff. But if it's like, you know, just in broad general terms, Ton Rosendale, the creator of Blender, mainly because it's like, you know, it's very hard as a business person to kind of keep to your ethics with all these different things, but he's made it open source and then he's intent to do that. And I feel like the community is really thriving and it's really giving people the tool and like the creative mindset to actually do what they want to do. And a lot of people talk about democratizing art, but sometimes, you know, it's not really democratizing art. It's more like trying to capitalize on things. But I feel like with Blender, they really stuck to that. So
working with giving back to the community as well as allowing the community to contribute, because that is one of the things that I love about Blender is that it takes a lot of information that the community has given to the creators and incorporated that, and people are allowed to go and edit the program and adjust it to what their needs are if they understand how to do the coding and work with the systems there. And there comes a lot of challenges with that. So tell us a little bit about some of the challenges that you've experienced in not only like building this community, but like what are some of the hardest challenges you've faced?
Oh, wow. I think like some of the hardest challenges I've faced was also mostly this year is about, you know, balance. Not just like a work-life balance, but also balancing the fact that, you know, a lot of things are moving at a very high speed. Like when we're talking about AI, that's why we have a round panel about the ethics of AI. Mm-hmm. And also like kind of balance out the idea of, you know, okay, there is things that are going to change. You have to be in front of it to make those changes. But also, what are you willing to compromise? Or what kind of things are you going to do in order to do that? And also, how do you still like, you know, like work with your community? Because I feel that like, I would say that, you know, AI is a big challenge because for me, I find some parts of it to be very like useful, but the Gen AI
like
part,
the ethics, right?
Yes, correct. There's a lot of things that I feel, you know, just because you can doesn't mean you should, right? That comes into play. So that when something is so easy to obtain in front of you and you know that it will bring you onto a new place, what do you do? And also, I think that's a challenge that I also have in terms of like trying to balance everything now. Is that like there's so many things, so many people, and then trying to be patient, not just with yourself, with other people as well too, to understand that like once you are working at a thing like a certain pace, and your pace is not sustainable, then you have to actually introspect the way that you're looking, and then slow down yourself too. Like even when we're doing this festival, right? A lot of things have gone wrong, and for me, sometimes I'll be like, okay, as long as people don't notice, it's fine. But then another part of me is like, oh no, like we could have done this or that better. But then we have to kind of look at that and just balance that out as well.
To give advice to somebody as they are growing a community, as they are working with organizing and in some cases letting go of power, what would you give them advice on?
Well, number one is, that is also the reason why we have a change of leadership, is sometimes it's important. It's like you can help as much as you want to, but you shouldn't be in the position where you're the only one in control of everything. Because if you're the only one in control of everything, no one else is learning, no one else is making the change. And when you're gone, you're not preparing your community to actually be met with a greater change. It needs to be coming from the fact that everybody needs to be growing together, and also like understanding that, let go sometimes of the position that you have. A position is just a position. So therefore, if you're really trying to do something that you feel is for the greater good or whatever, then practice what you preach.
Excellent. So if you haven't already, please check out Asifa South. And if you are in the Atlanta area and want to help support the community, check out Asifa South to be more a part of the animation community.
Look at Josephine. Josephine here has been a large help in our organization. Now she's talking like, oh, what is Asifa? I don't know.
Alrighty, thank you so much. So since we're here at Kennesaw State has a really great animation program, and I just happen to know several of the teachers who work as part of the program. So this is Chris Malone. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, aloha. So my name is Chris Killica Malone, and I am actually the coordinator of the digital animation department here at KSU. So I've worked here for the last 8 years. This is my second year as the coordinator, though. And I've also worked on a lot of really rad cartoons outside of this, like Cyanide and Happiness, Archer, Baby Shark. I've done a Game Grumps cartoon here or there. So I've worked on a lot of really fun cartoons.
Yeah, that's excellent. Yeah, I totally spaced and forgot to say that you do work at Floyd Count. You did work at Floyd Count for a little bit, and some of the other studios around here. So speaking of studios and working with different animation projects, what is some of your biggest inspirations to move forward and keep going?
All right, so one of my absolute biggest inspirations has to be Calvin and Hobbes and Bill Watterson's Calvin and Hobbes from back in the day. Comic strips have always been a big inspiration to me. So like the comics you would see in the newspapers, then a lot of the webcomics from like the early 2000s and 2010s. So I've always been more of a fan of like 3-panel and 4-panel act structures, just because you can tell a lot of story in just a few panels, and I've always enjoyed cartoons like that.
Yeah, I understand. I've been really getting into zines lately, and that has been so fun. And one of my favorite zines is actually the one that you did years ago with the cowboy. I still have that one as part of my collection.
Okay, I'm really happy you're bringing this up here, because I'm actually turning that into an animated film.
Oh, wow.
I just got started on it a couple weeks ago, so it's going to be called Guild, which is this old system where basically if you take somebody else's life, you're going to have to pay a certain amount of money to the family and the government to kind of like make up for the loss of that person's income and contribution to society.
Interesting.
So this is going to be a Western focusing on a bounty hunter facing repercussions for basically decades in his career.
Wow.
And so I'm kind of excited.
That's really interesting that you're expanding on that story. That's really, really fun. So speaking of like story and creation, what are some of the challenges that you faced and that you've had to overcome?
So I'm actually going to be telling the story of my famous little necklace I got right here. So when I was in grad school, I had to go in front of like this panel of all my professors right after I finished half of grad school. So over at SCAD, when you're doing your master's degree or your master's of fine arts, which is a 2-year program, After 1 year, you have to sit in front of in front of your professors, and they will critique you as an artist. You can have all A's, you can be mastering every class, but if they're not seeing the appropriate growth from you, they will tell you what you need to do to basically improve as an artist.
Yeah.
And what I got was really fascinating because I have the personality of a happy-go-lucky golden retriever. And my work was too bubbly, too cheerful. I had no conflict in my work at all. And conflict is pretty much the base of all stories. So if you don't have any conflict, your stories are going to be really boring.
Yeah, so it's one of those where it's like it can be happy-go-lucky, it can be like bubbly, but it needs to have it needs to just have that it doesn't even have to be like a dramatic conflict, but it has to have something that challenges the creator or like the reader, right?
So because of that, they told me to start exploring my darker side, if you will. And one of the first things that I did was I found somebody online who basically spends half of his day making these, and then he sells them online, and that basically provides his rent and food, and then he spends the other half of the day surfing. So I mean, I thought I had a really cool job, and this guy had a cool job too. It might be a little hard to see. I'm going to hold it up to the camera. That's okay. On the inside here. And when I first got this, it was entirely black. It was very dark. And I picked it up because it just had some bad energy to it. And I was like, you know what? I'll invite this darkness into my life, improve my storytelling with it. Well, my happy-go-lucky attitude and my good luck broke this bad luck charm, as you can see. So I like to wear this as a reminder to myself to simply welcome in conflict. Not exactly embracing it, but learning how to be able to use it in a positive manner. So that was one of my biggest challenges I ever had, was I would actually stray away from I would stray away from stories that would be difficult to tell. I would stray away from anything that was essentially dark. And that's really improved my storytelling in both writing and visually since I learned that lesson. So that was one of my biggest challenges I faced. A few things actually here at KSU is that we actually hold a zine festival over at Dr. No's, which is a local comic book shop about 10 minutes away. And so usually that's held every semester or once a year. I'm not sure what their plans are going to be going forward in the future. Okay. But we actually have our own zine festival that we hold through a collaboration between KSU and Dr. No's. So
nice. Well, that's so fun. So that's something that we'll definitely have to check out in the future.
And if anyone want to check out my work, surfdogart.com.
Say that again?
surfdogart.com.
Alrighty, thank you so much. It was so good to see you here.
All right, aloha, guys.
I love being able to share with my viewers all of my friends that come and are around here and everything. And I just happen to be here with one of the loudest and most bodacious people that I know, Bob Carter, who works in voice acting and part of the film and animation industry. So if you're thinking about commercials, if you're thinking about
corporate narration, politicals, broadcasting, podcasting, streaming, live announcing, animation and video games, events, anything and everything. All things creative, all things audio. That's what we do. So at the Neighborhood Studio, we help aspiring creatives become working creatives. And there are other neighbors as well, but I do the audio side. That's what I do. So I'm very happy to be here right now because Josephine has been a neighbor for years, and you look amazing. Seriously, I totally love the rainbow lipstick and the glitter. You look phenomenal.
It is also real makeup. I love her makeup so much.
Wait, who is it?
I was talking about how you've done voice acting and what you are able to portray it with your voice. Tell us a little bit about what goes into helping your studio run and helping you get going.
Oh, wow. There's a lot there. So when it comes to helping the studio run, because again, we're a small business, so we are constantly hustling, right? So I can't just rely on animation and video games. Thankfully, I have that. And in all seriousness, COVID was bad, but working remotely opened up a lot of doors.
It provided a lot of work for
Yes.
these more remote things,
Exactly.
these things that are easier to do at home or in a small contained space.
Yes, such as a whisper booth. And so being able to work remotely, as long as you've got a strong internet connection and quiet space, I'm able to work everywhere from Los Angeles to Tokyo to Beijing to Madrid, London. I'm able to work all over the world.
Yeah.
And so that's been it's been a godsend. But because we're a small studio and we're in Atlanta, like I said, you can't just rely on animation video games. We also do commercials and corporate narration. And again, the creative industry in Atlanta is multifaceted.
Yeah.
And so you have to develop other skill sets besides just one or the other.
Understandable. So you're working with a bunch of different avenues. How do you get in contact with those as far as like incorporating them into what you're doing?
So in terms of marketing, in terms of reaching out, I'm a big believer in referrals.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I enjoy meeting people and I thrive on social interaction. So I love going to a lot of the different industry networking events.
Yeah.
So I always recommend that people come out to Asifa conferences or Asifa events
or like
for animation. Of course,
or...
MomoCon, DragonCon, ShaoCon. Again, I'm going to make sure I plug this repeatedly. But in all seriousness, the Georgia Game Developers Association, Georgia Production Partnership, Women in Film Television Association. Guys are invited, non-binary, whoever. You're openly invited. It's just designed to help promote and strengthen support and resources for females, because sometimes a male-dominated industry can be very callous, so to speak.
Understandable.
And I've always, that's one thing about the Neighborhood Studio, this.
Yeah.
We are a safe, fun, and creative space to come play, pursue your creative bliss, be less than perfect. You got to be willing to play and be willing to fail and make mistakes to learn.
Yeah.
And we provide that safe environment to do that.
And speaking of play, one of the things that I love is being able to be creative, be able to flex those muscles. So what helps inspire you to invite that play into your life?
Gaming. You know this. Life is game. Formerly Dungeons and Dragons, but with the Wizards of the Coast debacle, I moved over to Pathfinder 2E, and also, still doing Star Wars FFG, Rifts, DC 20 now as well. I'm very excited about DC 20.
I've been interested in looking into that. I personally have gone on the tabletop RPG side. As you know, or as you're coming to find out, I've been really into solo adventures and solo gaming, or smaller, like kind
cozy
of
games.
No, yes and no. Some of them deal with like heavy topics like Dungeons and Dragons do. Others of them do follow more of a cozy style, but essentially they're journaling games. There are games that you can play on your own. So there are dungeon crawlers. There are ones that you do make tea and you're building up a village. There are ones where you're taking down empires. There are ones that are dealing with grief, and it allows for a lot of interesting exploration that you can do and you can play by your onesies or just as a two-person system.
Interesting. All right. Well, I need the social interaction. It's game therapy for me.
Yeah.
So I thoroughly enjoy, honestly, I love whether it's going to be like one or two people, because you can get much more into character, right? There's a lot of room to role play, not just role play.
Yeah.
But there's always a lot of room to have those character arcs and story and character development. But I definitely thrive on the camaraderie of gaming. And that's one of the things that I loved so much about being able to provide with the Neighborhood Studio, is that we provide that place for people to come hang out. Right?
Yeah.
And all types. That's the really cool part. All cultures, all ages, all demographics. But it's all about being creative and finding your creative self, and especially with regards to changing technology these days, right? So AI and dealing with that, it's all about helping aspiring creatives become working creatives, but also making sure that I create the positive pathway for them to do that. And I try to practice what I preach and lead by example. So I've had to have my own issues and challenges. And thankfully, I've overcome them now, and I'm using AI as part of my tool set. And I'm teaching other creatives to use AI now.
And hopefully in an ethical way,
Of course. course, of course.
And with these challenges that you're talking about, what is one of the greatest challenges that you've come up against, and how have you been able to solve that for yourself?
Well, as a voice actor, where we're constantly the last chain in a long, or I should say the last link in a long chain of events, you know, whether you're a voice actor or an animator, a writer, a photographer, you've got to make sure that you value your art, value your own creative ability, and then value and protect your own creative ability. And unfortunately, the way that AI has been used is to diminish that, and for you know, I mean, it's in the name of cutting costs. You know, that's what they call it. They have used AI to impact the creative side, right? The creative industries. Instead
of supporting it, they've used it in a more devastating way than I hoped it would be.
Exactly. So once the union, so again, I was being directly impacted by AI, right? Also, the fact that my voice is all over YouTube, where people can take my voice, dry, clean, quality audio, and then use that and then import that. I had to protect my voice.
Yeah.
So using the same tools that the music industry has used to protect my voice. Again, once the union signed off on, we're going to allow AI. Again, from a personal actor standpoint, I was scared, full on, absolutely terrified. You know, this is going to affect my livelihood. From a studio owner standpoint and from an instructor standpoint, I had to learn how to use AI so I could teach my own students. This is what we have to do.
In this changing industry,
exactly.
I think we'll come back and have a good talk about this, and maybe do more of a more one-on-one interview outside of a convention, and talk about this a little bit more in depth. So, speaking of conventions and just what you do, how can people find you, your studio, and some of the other projects that you're working on?
Thank you so much for bringing that up. So the Neighborhood Studio, feel free to Google it, neighborhoodstudioatlanta.com. You can email me, bob@neighborhoodstudioatlanta.com. Again, they still haven't given me nsa.com. Every time I try to get it, it just gets blocked. But in all seriousness, Shao Kahn, I'm also a member of the Georgia Game Developers Association. And because of AI terrifying me, scaring me, I wanted to do something proactive rather than reactive, right? Change is scary when it happens to us. It's good when it comes from us. So over the next 5 years, they're talking about how AI is going to transform retail, warehouse, military, logistics, and service jobs.
Yes.
Those are typically the jobs that every high school student falls into right after high school, if they don't already know that they're going to college. But those are also typically jobs that are going to displace a lot of people of color.
Yes.
Right? A lot of the rural communities. So Shao Kahn is an event that I'm hosting where I'm going to bring in every single high school. My goal is to bring in every esports team of every high school in Georgia for an actual regional tournament, GHSA sanctioned games. Plus, it's going to be a college and job fair, and it's a creative expo, right? Real industry talk.
Interesting.
Yeah, so motivate, educate, and empower. You know, that's my formula. I stick to it. So I'll motivate them with getting them to the fun stuff with the tournament and the esports and the creative expo. Educate them about the opportunities where gaming leads to coding and high-tech skills. Coding and high-tech skills lead to high-paying careers. And then open their eyes and their families' eyes about the transferable skills from the games that we play, from gaming, because again, we've always learned by gaming.
Yes.
But show them the path to a better future.
Thank you so much for helping spark our own creativity here, and we will see you again in the future.
Thank you very much, Josephine. Always a pleasure, and thank you for your time. And yes, Shao Kahn Halloween weekend, ShaoCon.com, ShaoCon.com.
We're taking a brief intermission to see some of the films I got to see at Asifac. Many of them were thought-provoking, heartfelt, cute, and funny. And that is what I love about coming to conventions, where you get to see things you don't normally get to see, especially coming to film festivals, because you get to hear voices that are not part of the mainstream or that are harder to find when you are perusing the internet. Some of my favorites from this year is The Teacup, Collage, The Seventh Night, The Rat, Goro Goro, The Pope's Dog, After Image, The Good Wood, Dying of Defrost, Llamas at the Laundry, Poor Generation, Have You Eaten, and Booby Cheat Sheet. I can't wait to see more amazing films next time.
Wonderful to be able to talk about some of the animations that people are showing off. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Travis Fowler. I'm the creator of Dungeon Flippers, a fantasy real estate indie animation whose palette just came out last week.
Nice. Tell us a little bit about the story.
It is a fantasy story about two real estate agents, Molly, who is a manticore, and Cleveland, who's a dragon, and they have to find a new dungeon home for the evil wizard, the Ace of Wands.
That sounds super fun. It kind of reminds me of like Dungeons and Dragons, and you know I love a good TTRPG, tabletop game. I talk about solo adventures all the time on my page. So tell us a little bit about what inspired you for this.
Ooh, so many inspirations. Like you said, similarly, I love tabletop role-playing games like Dungeons and Dragons. I'm a big fan of anything fantasy. And I also really love that good feeling you get from watching a good HGTV show. And so this is mixing the two of those together.
So like Home Flippers or
yes,
like
House
Trash
Hunters,
to Treasure.
Yes, all those fixer-uppers, is a good one. Love It or List It. All those kinds of shows. But with a fantasy aesthetic and with a certain sense of silliness.
Well, with talking about inspirations, what is one of some of the biggest artists that you have found inspiration from?
One for me that's really big is the writer Terry Pratchett of the Discworld series, which is another like comedy fantasy series. I feel like his sense of humor and the places that he takes his stories are always very inspirational for me.
Yeah, I can agree. So Terry Pratchett does a lot of really fun stuff. My favorite actually is the collab between him and Neil Gaiman with Stardust, one of my personal favorites.
So good.
So good. So with that being said, there is always challenges that we face as artists, as creators. What are some of the, what is one of the biggest challenges that you've gone through, and how have you overcome it?
Definitely the biggest challenge is the stick-to-itiveness, the tenacity, the finishing of a thing. It's so good to let a good idea sit on a shelf and to just say like, oh, that was good, I might do that again later. But to actually like, with this, I really wanted to commit. I really stuck to it through a whole year or two of just solid work to finish it. And that was obviously the biggest hurdle, is just sticking with it.
So what are some of the things that you did to overcome this?
Things like keeping a good daily routine, a good schedule of like having committed time to work on the project, like, you know, every weekday. Also taking time to recover. Like I had weekends off, even though I'm unemployed at the moment, but like I would work on the weekdays like I was having a regular job and have time off when I wasn't working. And having that good balance of things is just like, it's very important to keep you going, because I could be pulling 80-hour days every day and I'd crash, I'd burn out. And that's the biggest...
burnout is real. Yeah. You have to be very careful with that.
Avoid at all costs.
So where can everybody find you?
Right, you can find Dungeon Flippers Pilot on YouTube, or find, there's a big presence on Twitter with Travis Fowler 31 at Twitter. But I recommend checking out the pilot on YouTube. Just search Dungeon Flippers.
Alrighty, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
So no event would be perfect without some volunteers to help make it all happen. And volunteers are just artists like you and I who are here to help support the event and make it happen. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started volunteering with Asifa.
Sure. My name is Mayar.
Nice to meet you, Mayar.
When we first moved to Atlanta, we were looking for the animation community around, so we ran into one of the Asifa animation, I think it was at Asifa Animation Day back in 2017. Connected to Ginger, started volunteering a little bit at the start, and now I'm working as on the operations team.
Oh, nice.
So we do the monthly mixer now.
Nice. Yeah. That's good to hear. Glad to see that the monthly mixer is going on. When does the monthly mixer happen with Asifa?
Last Wednesday of every month. It's a Kennesaw Day, and usually it's the social sciences building. It's nice. The community gets together, they share their experience. The panelist talks about how they got into the industry. It's inspiring for people starting out or in the industry to get to know each other.
That's really good. So speaking of getting to know each other, tell us a little bit about yourself and about some of the work that you've done.
Okay, so my background was in architecture construction, and from there I transitioned into 3D modeling and more character-based animation and character 3D modeling. I started working in Egypt originally, so we did like commercials for local commercials over there and small VR games, AR augmentation experiences after moving to the US, starting getting smaller projects or like small freelance projects, and just getting to work now with BWA, worked a little bit with My Animation Life, and a lot of the same community with Asifac.
Oh, nice. That's really good to hear. So what is some of the inspiration that keeps you moving forward?
Cartoons. Like every time you see like a good animation, I was like, this is so good. You're inspired to grab the drawing board. I was like,
and it's hard not to fall in love with it, right?
Even really like, we're going to focus on something serious now. And it's just awesome.
So what is one of the cartoons that you're really enjoying right now?
I'm so excited for the Minions. I know, like Despicable Me, I'm so looking forward to the release next week. That is definitely my favorite.
Understandable. Avatar. They are a little addictive to look at sometimes, 100%. And just their little antics.
100%. Love Illumination Studios' work in general, and Sony. So Sony Animation Pictures. I know, classical. Everybody loves that, but definitely they have something extra.
So what are some of the biggest challenges that you faced working on projects or just in pursuing a career in animation?
Consistent work and making sure that clients see that what we do is work and how much work actually goes into creating something, as opposed to you're just drawing, this is just fun, like you're just doodling or you're just like playing around on the computer. It's conveying to a client how much work it takes so that we can, when we set our prices, they know what we're talking about and the amount of team members that we bring in to create one piece.
Yeah, that is definitely a challenge within the industry. Being able to see people take visual aesthetics and visual things for granted, and that's not always the case, especially with you have to not only have passion for something, you have to have skill. And that's something that's challenging to see. So what is some of the things that has helped you overcome this challenge?
Creating an image in advance to my client to be like, by the way, this is the process. It takes this and this and this and this. I'm trying to break down the steps so that they're aware of like expected timeline, expected budget, and trying to figure out what they are looking for to make sure that we can deliver something within what they're looking for in terms of timeline, budget, aesthetic, and requirements for the project. If they need something that, for example, does not require a lot of characters, but they want to put in characters because it would be cool, but the budget and time does not allow it, I would try to advise them on focusing on what they need out of this product, for example.
Yeah, so good interpersonal communication skills is something that is worth practicing when you're getting into animation. I absolutely agree. Thank you so much. Where can we find you?
I'm on Instagram, mayart, ma.yar.t, and on LinkedIn, mayar.reli, and you can find my website, my portfolio website, mayarreli.com.
So this is Patty. Please tell us a little bit about yourself, Patty.
Sure. Hi, my name is Patty. My full name is Pavida Shankeo. I'm originally from Thailand, and I came here to study at SCAD. I'm from animation major, storytelling, and concept development. And I have graduated, so right now I'm a freelance storyboard artist and illustrator.
Nice. So what inspired you to get into animation?
Of course, it's gonna be like my childhood like movies or things I watched when I was young. One of the things also like I found drawing very enjoyable since I was really young. So I figured that like what I would love to do is gonna involve art. And then I just like learned later on that, oh, actually people make animation. Like when I was really young, I just thought like it's computer made. So I figured it's like a way, one of the careers path that we could take. So that's why I chose animation.
Excellent. So what is one of your favorite things about storyboarding, since that's the track you chose?
Yes. So because storyboarding is like visual storytelling, it requires, of course, drawing skills, but not necessary for, you know, it's not for the aesthetic, but it's drawing for communication. What I really like about storyboarding is like it's almost like writing plus filmmaking plus illustration a little bit, like that drawing skills. So it's like it takes a lot of knowledge from different aspects, and that's like building up together to like make stuff on screen. Because I think for me, storyboarding is the first time you see the film, like it's like first time
you're piecing it together, right?
Yes, that's why I find it really fascinating. Yeah,
that's a great way of describing it. I really like that. So One of the things that I love about storyboarding is that you are a storyteller and you are working with building up this idea that you have in your head and putting it into a place that you can share with other people. So that's one reason why tabletop RPGs are so important to me. That's one reason why I love sharing zines with you all. And that's another reason why I come to events like this. It is really fun to see the stories that other people tell and how they share them with each other. And with sharing stories, there's always some kind of difficulty that comes into it. What are some of the difficulties that you have faced in storytelling?
Sure. I would say if it's storyboarding specifically, sometimes it's just technical stuff, like if drawings are unclear or if the cut make some people confused when watching the film, but those are minor. I think one of the biggest challenges are sometimes we struggle to find why we tell a particular story. I think for me, a good story should have the core of why it is told, and I think it's really fun to explore those during the filmmaking process. But I think one of the challenge is actually having that North Pole, a North Star, having a reason why you tell that story.
That's really good. I love that answer. So finding your why is something that you'll find a lot when people are not only telling their story, but doing things like how I do and share the content that I do with you all. And the why for me is a lot of not just self-expression, but being able to show the heart of the people that I work with. And I love that about being a part of this community. So where can we find you?
You guys can find me on Instagram. It's Patty Wanna Draw, PATTY, and then #1NA.draw. Or and then in the bio there will be my link tree with all the other social media. So that should be good.
Alrighty, thank you so much. We have just gotten out of a very interesting panel, which I love going into different industry panels and how they share information and insights into growing industries, into things that I don't necessarily work directly with, but it indirectly affects me because it's just a part of how we as a collaboration work together in a society. So with that being said, I am here with two wonderful people, and we're just gonna do a couple of quick chat about some of the things that we're seeing and some of the things that we're interested in. So go ahead and introduce yourself, please.
Hi, my name is Zane Everett. I'm a senior technical trainer for Unity Technologies. I make tons of educational material to be able to teach Unity. Before that, I made educational material using video game technology.
Hi, I'm Cindy Matson. I'm a senior digital animation student here at Kennesaw State University, most interested in 2D animation and FX animation.
Excellent. So with that being said, we're going to start with you. What is something that you're most excited about right now as you are going into graduating?
We're going into graduating. I'm most excited about animation growing in Atlanta and film. I feel like every day more and more opportunities are moving into the South. And as someone who lives in Georgia, that's really exciting.
Yeah, it is. I love seeing the city grow. So what is something that you've seen in the growth that really just gets you going?
Absolutely. Last summer, I interned at Chilla Studios, so I got to see hands-on different companies, small and large, that were moving their headquarters or adding locations here, and seeing that every day is just more and more job opportunities for all the artists here.
That's wonderful. So speaking of job opportunities and you working with Unity, what is some of the things that you are excited about with what you're doing and how it is growing with what you're seeing?
It's to teach people how to use the software, and we're seeing lots of initiatives all over the world. There has been continued emphasis in the United States, but growing emphasis in places like Southeast Asia, and the continued growth there is just exciting to see the world get a little bit smaller and have more creators doing things and greater collaboration between different regions around the world.
That is fantastic. fantastic. We love to see that. And with that, there comes some of the challenges. What are some of the challenges you faced?
I would say entering the job market now, it's difficult finding a job as someone with no professional experience quite yet. That's probably my largest challenge currently.
Understandable. I know that has also been a struggle on my end as things have been changing and there have been different things that have caused the industry to pause or to go into these lulls over the past few years, especially after the big influx that we had during COVID, where there was a lot of jobs out there and a lot of work. And we've seen that kind of downsize a little bit. So as a student, what is something that you are going to try and do to help you overcome, or at least help you get through this?
Absolutely. Things I've been doing lately are attending events like this, so I'm able to network, meet people in person. I think that talking in person is so valuable, and you just get to build deeper connections with people in animation and related fields, on top of developing your personal portfolio. If you're not working right now, do your personal projects, put them in your demo reel, and that may help you get professional jobs later on.
Yes, absolutely. I really agree with that. And how about since you're seeing the struggle that students are going through, and what are some of the challenges that you see that you're helping students work through and trying to overcome?
Continue to come to events like this and give the best advice that I can to different people at different skill levels and different places in their career. At an organizational level, one thing that Unity continues to do, if you're working on things that are creating a better good or telling stories that have never been told before from different cultures, Unity offers the Unity for Humanity grant, where you can apply and potentially get funding for your project.
Excellent. So thank you so much both for allowing me to interview you today. Where can we find you?
So you can find me on LinkedIn at Cindy Watson and Today's Draws on Instagram and TikTok.
You can find me on LinkedIn, Zane Everett.
Thanks so much. And we will hopefully catch you more at some of the screenings that we see here.
Yeah.